to prepare a king, he chose David. God got ready to exhibit wisdom, he chose Solomon. And God was ready to have a wall built, he chose Nehemiah. God wanted to exhibit courage, he chose Joshua. God got ready to save the world and build a church, he chose Jesus. And when God got ready for Liberty City to be a premier congregation in the Church of Christ, he chose Freeman White and now Eric Dawes. God knows what he's doing. I am appreciatively applauding those who have exhibited culinary craftsman skill. And we have certainly enjoyed pots of pleasure and dishes of delight. Let me get it bonnet on you. We have dined audaciously. It is somewhat of a conundrum for us to be asked to preach after we've eaten in such a manner. Not only was the food good, but the dessert table. Somebody here knows how to make peach cobbler. And if I could have found me some vanilla ice cream, and found me a microwave oven, man, I would be laid up on one of your pews right now. But it is certainly a distinct honor and privilege for me to be here to celebrate with your outgoing emeritus minister and to be here to celebrate the installation of one of my best friends in the gospel, Brother Eric Dawes. Beloved, the Hebrew writer has left a record that I believe is worthy of us putting under the crucible of investigation. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17. I need to teach you clerical construction. Hebrews 13 and 17. The Bible says, obey them and have rule over you. Church, why y'all ain't saying that? Yes. The Bible says, not Brother Leonard, not Brother White, not Brother Dawes. The Bible says, obey them that have rule over you. Now, nobody don't have no problems with that nowhere but church. They don't go to the job and tell Mr. Charlie, say it, South Carolina again on me. The church is the only place where everybody's grown. Everybody got something to say to those who have the authority. But I remind you again, God says in his word, obey them that have rule over you and submit yourself. The Bible never told the leader to make you submit. God says submit yourself. It's like when God told the wife, submit yourself to your husband. He never told the husband to make her. You can't make grown folk do nothing. God says to the members to submit themselves. For they watch for your soul. As they must give an account. That they may do it with joy and not with grief. For that would be unprofitable for you. Clerical construction. In 10 minutes, of course, I don't have time to develop a sermonic soliloquy, but I do want to drop a few nuggets of truth as you matriculate down the King's Highway. I do have it in an Orthodox style. I must confess it. It's been working pretty well for 34 years. People tend to laugh, but I found that there's a chemical in your brain, those who have studied anatomy and physiology, called endorphins. And when your endorphins get engaged, you tend to laugh. And when you laugh, what I do is while your mouth is open laughing, I shove some spiritual food. Okay, so that's the method of my madness, and I know I'm not as great a preacher as Tucker, I'm not as great an evangelist as Dawes, I sure enough ain't as great as Brother Coffee, but this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Beloved, this man's job, the baton has been passed. Yes, sir. Obey him, for God has given him authority. Now, I am a firm believer that you all have made a wise decision. For the man you have now leading, much like the man who he is succeeding, this man is neither a novice nor a neophyte. This is not Dolph's first rodeo. This is not his first campaign. He's seen and governed churches that have done well. And he's seen churches that go to demise. And I fervently believe with every fiber and tendon that is in my Homo sapien body that many churches of Christ are cursed like a fig tree because in the past on how they treated the man of God. And they're trying to figure out why they can't get footing, why they can't grow, why they can't prosper. Why is it everything we do, we can never be successful at this church or that church? It is because how you treated the man of God. And when you treat a man of God, it may be a long time ago, it may be far, far away, but I came by to tell you, if you ever mistreat God's man, God will not forget, and God will not allow you to prosper. Not only there are churches who are stunted in growth because of how they treated the man of God, there's some members of the church, I'm going to say this and I ain't going to take it back. I add a little to it before I take it back. There are people going straight to hell when they leave here. They ain't got to go to Atlanta and get no layover. They're going straight to hell because of how they treated the man of God. See how quiet y'all done got? Because the Bible says emphatically, there's no hesitation or reservation in this text. The Bible says obey them. Y'all don't know what obey means? And one of the reasons God said, God never gives people authority. He never holds you responsible unless he gives you authority. He cannot hold you responsible if he doesn't give you authority. You got to give an account for them. And so what we ought to do as members is make their job easy. And it's a blessing to you, and it's easier for them. Look, preaching's a whole lot harder than it looks. I ain't got but 5 minutes left. Look, preaching's harder than it looks. See, not only we got to deal with all the stuff I told you about this morning, but see, every Sunday we got to stand up and preach to y'all. And if we dress nice, y'all talk. If we don't dress nice, what he doing with his money? If you hug the men, you're funny. If you hug the women, you're flirty. If y'all done got real quiet on me. You speak to everybody, you're fake and phony. You don't speak to nobody, you're stuck up. Say it when you can. No matter what the man of God do, he's always under scrutiny. He lives his life in a fishbowl. He's always being criticized and critiqued by people who ain't qualified. When's the last time you ministered to church? This is the only job in the world where the people who never done the job know more about it than you know. When's the last time you preached a sermon? See how quiet y'all done got? I know I ain't coming back to Miami. I'm going to get out here and see what I can do. Because some of y'all going to start something. I ain't feeling good today. I ain't bring my bail money with me. Don't start nothing with me. Let me explain something to you. This is the only job in the world where you work, you worship where you work, and you work where you worship. See, this is the only job in the world where they pay you and then expect 10% of your money back to the job. Could you imagine on your job, you got your check on Friday, and Mr. Charlie said, before you leave, give me 10% of what I just gave you. See how quiet y'all done got on me? And believe me when I tell you, they watch what the preacher gives. They don't care what nobody else gives, but they watch what you give. Yeah. And another thing. Mama made me mad. When you show up on Sunday morning, you got to have the ability, the propensity, and the proclivity to feed 4 different constituents in the Church of Christ. Every Sunday, you got to stand up and you got to prove you've been by the schoolhouse. You got to have some academic problems. You got You can't have no dangling participles in your sentences. Your verb and your predicate got to agree. The people that go to your church want to know that you know Greek, Hebrew, and Latin. Now, they can't hardly speak English, but they know. They want to make sure that you can dissect, exegete, exegenetical hypothesis of the scripture. You got to be academic every Sunday. And then every Sunday, that's your academic wing. And then there's another wing. I call them the Church of Christ purists. You got to remind them every Sunday they're in the right church. They don't think you preached until you said one Lord, one faith, and one baptism. You got to remind them that they're in the right place and that this church belongs to Jesus. They forget every other Sunday that this is the Church of Christ. Yes, sir. And then there's a third constituent. That's your young folk. You got to be cool and hip and know who Rihanna and Beyonce is and Bruno Mars. And you got to give them some 24-karat gold. You got to know how to do the nay-nay and the wobble and the stanky leg. Y'all ain't got quiet. So you got these academic folk, you got to satisfy them. You got the Church of Christ folk, you got to satisfy them. You got the young folk, you got to satisfy them. And then you got that fourth constituency, they don't care what you preach as long as you're done in 30 minutes. They don't care what you preach. So every Sunday you got to do all that. This job is harder than it looks.
Yes, sir. All right.
Let me see what I'll tell you this. The airline industry did something that I think the church can learn from. One thing they do, they learn the reason airlines flourish and prosper is the way they treat the pilot. They treat the pilot different than they treat the passenger. The pilot is not better than the passenger, but notice how they treat the pilot versus the passenger. The passenger brought the ticket. The passenger pays the pilot, but the pilot is in charge of the...
Come on, yes, sir.
When the pilot gets on the plane and you get on the plane, he sits in a cockpit. The preacher is like the pilot. The pilot's in the cockpit, the preacher's in the pulpit. Y'all slow right here. Them greens working on y'all. They lock him in. He's not better than you, but he's different than you. And the way they build the plane, it is constructed in a manner that the pilot and you are on the plane, but he sits looking forward, you sit looking out the side. Which means he sees what you see, but he sees what you see before you see what he sees. That's why he can say with the weather looking like this, sit down, there's turbulence ahead. And you feel like, I don't see nothing wrong, because you don't see what he's... And if you get nerve enough to say, I bought a ticket, don't nobody, I'm grown, don't nobody, when they land and CNN show up, you're going to be... Because you got enough sense to obey him who has rule over you. Because he knows stuff that you don't know. What I'm saying to you today, the man of God that God has put in your midst knows some stuff you don't know. So when he tells you to sit down, or he tells you to stand up, or he says come forward or go back, you ought to have enough sense that you get blessed when you obey the man in the cockpit. They lock him in. And you can't bother him while he locked in there. You can't go up there and say, hey, what y'all doing? What if you went to school? You see, the better you treat him, because if he crashed that plane, you're going down with him. And if you treat your preacher right, he's going to help you to get to heaven. But if he crashed the plane, that's why Jesus said, if the blind lead the blind, both of y'all. See, if he's going to hell and lead you to hell, you're going to hell. So it behooves the... Listen. I don't have time. Let me tell you something. Church, what a blessed this congregation is for you to develop and maintain sufficient appreciation. He is not a king. He's not a czar. is not a pope, but he is the man of God. He's not better than you, but he's different than you.
All right.
And we have got to get out of this thing that the preacher is just another brother. If he's just another brother, the next time your members of your family die, call one of the brothers. Next time Pookie and Ray and Little Pistol start to go to jail, call one of the brothers. See, next time Big Mama goes to the hospital, just take the directory and wherever it follows, just call one of the brothers. Say no, you can. The next time the NAACP wants the pastor to come quick, just call one of the brothers. He is not just another brother. He is not better than you, but he is different than you. And the better you treat him, the better the church gonna. Somebody holler, and his wife. A wife said, and his wife. There's so much truth in that. Don't make me get on wife in church. I told the church, y'all paid me, y'all hired me. You didn't hire my family.
That's right.
Now, if you want to get on Brother Leonard's bad side, you want to see me like Paul and Silas go to jail and start a ministry? If you want to see that, you bother my wife in church. I listen at a lot of stuff. You can criticize me, you can talk to me, you can critique me, but if you bother my peeps, I'm like the Isaac brothers. I catch a case. Yes, I will. Oh, yeah. I keep some borrowing money in my account. Come on. Don't bother my wife and children, now my grandson. Let me, I'm done. Listen, I wouldn't spend that for, but Brother White's daughter said, and wife and children. I want y'all to love Brother Dawson. I know this man. I don't often be able to do this. I know his character. I know his integrity. I know his heart is bigger than the Lord.
Amen. Amen.
If y'all galvanize with him, behind him, support him, obey him, and if he's ever wrong, yeah, you don't have to obey an ungodly order, but this man means right for you.
Amen.
His lovely wife, Leonard, his 3 daughters, his grandchildren. If you love and support him, this church will be blessed. Amen. What happens to Liberty City depends on you. There was a genius in Venice, Italy, young genius, had Solomon-type credentials. He was known worldwide for how smart he was. And 2 young men decided to travel from Europe, much like the Queen of Sheba did with Solomon, to check out this young genius. And when they got to Italy, they got to Venice, Brother White, the 2 men presented themselves to this young man, and they asked him a Solomon-type question. The one young man had his hand behind his back with a bird in his hand. And he asked this young genius, "You're so smart. Well, the bird is in my hand behind my back. Is he alive or is he dead?" And the young genius thought about it for a minute. He said, "If I say he's alive, you'll crush him and kill him. If I say he's dead, you'll release him and let him fly." He said, "So then, the answer is in your hand."
Yes,
How far this church goes, the answer is in your hand.
yes.